And welcome back to Mental Health Matters. I am so glad you joined us tonight. We are broadcasting on KRUU FM 100.1, as I've said, the best radio station on the damn planet. And we have a special guest star today.
Hello. I'm Meredith Simpson, and I'm happy to be here.
And we are talking about mental health issues. If you want to ever email us, our email is mentalhealthmatters@kruufm.com. So do email us and let us know. We'd actually like to do some call-in shows and some other ideas. So we want your input here. This is Mental Health Matters, and tonight's talk, and we broadcast on Tuesdays at 6 Thursday, and Thursdays rebroadcast at 12:30. Tonight's talk is we're going to play a piece that I did on campus regarding mental health issues. And I'm just going to play my little section of things. But we're going to talk to Meredith about her ideas, and then we're going to play the piece, and then we're going to comment on it after. So, Meredith,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here. Rob couldn't
Thank
come
you.
today. Rob's actually in court today, so he's bailing on us.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. So, tell us why you're here. Tell us about your background and why
Sure.
you're so perfect to be here.
Well, mental health issues are interesting and important to me. I just moved back here from Chicago. I was gone for 17 years from Fairfield. I grew up here for the most part.
You grew up in Fairfield.
I did, yeah. I lived here from second grade all the way through the end of high school. My family's still here. Yeah. But after college, planted in Chicago. And for the last 10 years, began working with a theater company that sheds light on mental health issues through theater and storytelling.
Wow.
So, yeah. So this particular...
The focus of the theater company is mental health issues?
Yes, mental health issues, 100%. Yeah.
Cool. How does that work?
Basically, what happens is we collect true stories from individuals who've had experience with mental health issues, either themselves or like depression, bipolar, postpartum issues, schizophrenia even.
Wow.
Yeah, the gamut. So they'll share stories with us, just one-on-one in a private setting. And sometimes it's about themselves, their own experiences, and sometimes it's a family member who's been affected by a mental health issue. And then we transcribe these stories word for word. We want to make sure that we honor their words that they chose to use. And then we pare down these interviews to maybe 10-minute monologues. And each show is generally comprised of 5 or 6 of these monologues performed by professional actors. So we stay true to their stories and try and honor their experience to erase stigma around the topic and shed light and educate people around some of the basics. And it's a really profound experience, I find.
How does the audience respond to this?
Oh my gosh, the audience, we've had so many different kinds of responses, but very commonly the response is people are inspired to begin telling their own stories, which is really cool. We'll have people raise their hands, after the show there's a talk back session, and people are welcome to ask questions or share experiences, what they noticed about the show, or and lots of times people will just want to stand up and say, thank you for sharing these stories. I experienced something similar when XYZ, and the whole audience is just like riveted and appreciative and compassionate, and it's like the show continues because the people just lots of times just want to share and be real in that sort of authentic, honest space that they don't get to experience very often with these issues.
And have you heard stories of the audience afterwards, like it really affected them? They're able to do something with this, like go see a therapist or address their depression or something.
Sure, yeah. I mean, we make it a point to have resources available. both in pamphlet form and sometimes verbally. And we also often have mental health care specialists present in case something comes up for people, like a story really affected them and they're feeling a little unsettled and want to speak with someone.
Really? So you actually have a therapist there?
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. Especially when we work with high schools and colleges. We make sure that we've got, mental health support there so the students feel really cared for and safe. So that's kind of cool.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other reactions from the audience. Lots of questions, of course, but we oftentimes hear just thank you. Thank you so much for sharing these stories. And they also collect surveys after the show. We do a pre-show survey, and then people answer the same questions.
Like what kind of questions?
What's your definition of mental illness, for instance? Or
okay, so what's your definition of mental illness? After hearing all these other people's.
I feel like my definition of mental illness is if you have an emotion or maybe a repetitive, anxious thinking pattern that runs the show for so long that you lose your ability to function in the way that you really want to be functioning. You lose your ability to enjoy your life. When it starts affecting your quality of life, that's what I feel like. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. And that really goes to the talk that we're going to preview here in a minute.
Yeah.
Where I talk about this range between mental health and mental illness. And sometimes when it's really bad, it's kind of noticeable.
Yeah.
Like if I'm depressed and I can't get up, okay, I've got to admit I've got a problem.
Yeah.
I might not want to deal with it, but I've got a problem. And somebody else, somehow, there's some problem there. Mm-hmm. And mental health, I see is things are really working. They're working as you want them to work. Your life is actually becoming as you want it to become.
Yeah.
I think the problem is sometimes we get stuck in the middle. Like we're drinking a bit too much. I think that's one of the examples I gave. And maybe I'm not an alcoholic, but I'm drinking to go to sleep at night, so I'm not really sleeping, because obviously if you drink before you sleep, you don't sleep deeply, which is part of the problem. You go to sleep faster, but you don't sleep with any depth of sleep.
Right.
Or I'm depressed, but I'm functional.
Right.
Yes. Okay, but maybe I don't need to be living my life like this.
Yeah, I think I've been right there. Depressed, but still somewhat functional.
Yes, exactly. It's like, okay, I'm a functional drunk. Okay, that's not a great thing.
Right.
But functional depressed guy, yeah, all right. So it's kind of like, do you really need to be living like that?
No.
And is there a way out of that? Mm-hmm. So how would you define mental health?
Mental health is when you can experience being human. You can experience the joy. You can experience the sadness and even the fear and all of those things. That's part of being alive and being a human person. But, it's when those things start to hang out for so long.
Well,
that's when it's like, okay, this is no longer a picture of health for me. Yeah.
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 I mean, you're an actor, and your whole point, am I supposed to say actor or actress?
Yeah. Oh, these days I think it doesn't matter.
Okay.
I guess I generally call myself an actor.
Okay. Oh, that's always interesting. So your whole job is to have that range of emotion.
Yeah.
On stage.
Yeah.
How do you not take that home with you at night and like be so overly dramatic?
Yeah. Well,
like my life becomes a part.
The different actors in the shows that I've done, every person has their own experience in holding these emotions and portraying the people that we've collected stories from. I know for some people, they really need to practice some mental health well-being, like they'll do some breathing or some meditation just to make sure that they're not carrying this around too much. I find for myself, actually, when I perform the story, it's hugely cathartic. I find those places in myself that have experienced the deep, the really dark places of those stories, those spots in my own self get released when I speak these words and tell this story. I feel like for me, it has the effect of, being healing.
So that sense of freedom.
Yeah.
I've identified. And I've had that so often with clients where they sit there and say, I think people who aren't identified, so to speak, are afraid of that label. It's going to give them a stigma. I am attention deficit disorder. Oh my God, it's this terrible thing. It's just ADD, for God's sake. Okay, but actually having that label gives them the freedom to understand what that label means and what to do with it.
Right. There's an awareness that comes, and there's, I think, a certain amount of comfort that comes with the awareness. And also compassion for yourself and compassion for other peoples who may be people who may be experiencing something similar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
By the way, you are listening to Mental Health Matters with Dr. Scott Terry and my special guest today,
Meredith Simpson. Hi.
It is so awesome that you're here. And we are talking about mental health issues today. Again, we broadcast 6 Thursday, Tuesday nights and rebroadcast 12:30 Thursday afternoon. And please email us your stories, your thoughts, your ideas, upcoming shows, call-ins, whatever you'd like at mentalhealthmatters@kruufm.com, 100.1 FM. So, Meredith, let's just go one more minute and then let's play the show.
Yeah.
So when you identify, okay, so maybe you haven't had the depth of depression. You said that's one of the issues you've experienced.
I have, yeah. I had a super rough year. I've had several dips into depression in my life, but I had a really bad year in about 2003 when I had a bunch of circumstantial things happen in my life all at once. Like my cat died, I lost my job, had a terrible breakup with a dude who was my best friend, just all this loss, like bam, 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 right in a row. And that was a dark place, and it was scary. And I was like, I'm sick of my thoughts. And I'm seriously thinking of checking myself into a hospital because I can't stand to be with myself right now.
And you know what's interesting is it's every one of our things, our depressions, are different. And they're different for each one of us. So I might hear yours and go, oh, my God, that's nothing.
Right.
Mine is like a million. But it doesn't matter. When a little kid scrapes his knee and he goes, oh, my God, my knee's scraped.
Yeah.
And what I tell people is like, if the mom sits there and like, oh my God, you scraped your knee, and you freak out, the kid's going to freak out. If you sit there and say, you scraped it, go play, and you don't get trapped in that thought, then you're free. And depression is really about two things, and I'll talk more about this later with everyone. Depression is really about circumstances and about biology. Circumstances, looking at, is there another way to see that concept? That I'm depressed, those circumstances, my cat dying, and you're putting so much meaning and power into that.
Yeah.
And, if the cat died and there was no other things, it probably wouldn't have been an issue.
Right,
but your boyfriend who you're close to, who is your best friend, leaving at the same time means all of a sudden, oh my God, the cat died, becomes this huge thing.
Yeah.
And it becomes exponential.
Yeah.
And
on top of being unemployed, middle of winter, drinking too much after volleyball.
Oh,
God.
yeah, right,
yeah. I don't want to make light of it, but all of those things.
But it's okay to make light of it now because you're not there.
Right.
And it's okay, even if you are there, to sometimes take a break from it. You don't have to get trapped in your thoughts. And then the other part is, apart from the circumstances, is biology. And biology you could address through, we've talked before about exercise, intense exercise, 30 minutes a day of intensity, plus connecting with your body and getting that you are controlling what's going on, as well as meditation, diet, really looking at food as a drug and how it really affects you, because it really does. And if you think that fast food or eating crappy food doesn't affect you, you're wrong, because it really does. And sleep. And there's other ways to really address the biology, but you got to address both ends of that stick. But I want to get to the show.
Yeah.
But once you finish up, so having identified as depressed, were you then able to, did it give you the space to then say, I don't have to be ashamed of this. I can get out of the stigma.
It took me a while to get to that space because it took me a while to have the courage to talk about it. And it took me a while to see a therapist. And it took me a while to have a realization that this was also a family thing. That it was, biologically speaking, it was, in my blood. Yeah. So once I realized I was not alone, I could talk to people about this and not be ashamed. And then I was able to seek professional help. healing was right around the corner this time.
And healing is always around the corner, and none of us have to be alone ever again. Who's ever listening to this, ever wherever you are in the world, you don't have to be alone ever again. Never. You are safe now. You've made it. And you know you made it because look in the mirror and you'll see yourself there. You made it. Not time to be afraid anymore. It's time to have the courage to say, time for the next step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to the tape, and we'll be back right afterwards. This is Mental Health Matters with Dr. Scott Terry, KRUU-FM. We will see you soon. Bye. Well, welcome, everyone. This is amazing. I stand here before you tonight to say, I will...
Put the mic up.
Is this it?
Is it on?
All right. Now,
Yes.
Well, welcome again, everyone. I stand here before you tonight to say, I will not be silent anymore. I'm here because I will not be silent anymore. I will not be silent about myself and all the problems that I've had. I had a really bad learning disability growing up, and I struggled. And I went through enormous pain in school trying to survive. But only you can make yourself a victim. Only you traps yourself within your own mind. Trauma, I say to all my students, is not about what happened. It's about what we create in ourselves, what we do to ourselves again and again and again. And then I had a bad accident years later, and I lost everything. All my money, all my clients, everything, my practice. And instead of getting trapped within myself, in the biology and circumstances that I was going through, I got up again. And it really, what's so important is it's not about how we fall, it's about how we get up again. People who heard my suicide prevention talk know this theme. It's about not getting trapped over and over again and saying, I'm going to get up and it's going to take time, but I'm going to make things happen. And I'm not going to be silent in this community. And so if you haven't heard me screaming my lungs out, then you haven't been listening. Because we have been making a difference here. We have created the Fairfield Mental Health Alliance. Policies are now changing on campus and across the community. Fairfield Cares has done an amazing job. We did a suicide prevention talk and training, which Craig's also going to mention tonight. Further training so we can know what to do. We're not going to stop. Every day we're trying to make a difference. Heck, I'm even doing a radio show. How cool is that? Listen in, that crew. So it's not about what happens. It's about what we do with it. And so I say to you, each of you tonight, it's not about what's happening with you, but what you're willing to not be silent about anymore with what's going on with you and what's going on in your community with your friends, and to stand up to make a difference. So now is the time to start. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and the magnificent Craig Pearson, who has done a phenomenal job. None of this would be happening without Craig. So I think Craig deserves it. So what's the difference between being happy and happiness? It's an interesting kind of distinction we all get lost in. There's moments of just wanting some pleasure, wanting a moment of happiness. But it's not really happiness, it's just being happy for a moment, right? How's that different from a drug addict when we get so attached to needing that, being happy for a moment? So there's a spectrum between mental illness and mental health. Most of us are trapped a little bit somewhere in between. We can think about mental illness, about what's not really working in our life. How are we getting trapped? And mental illness is when it starts becoming profound. We're drinking to the point where we're missing school, missing a job, our relationships are falling apart. The depression is so devastating that we can't get up for a couple weeks. Or we're bipolar, and we're up and we're down, and we're up and we're down, and the downs never quite match up to the ups. When it's that bad, we get help, and when you see a friend in that kind of pain, we let them know enough is enough. We're going to start being honest with each other. And mental health is really about putting in play the work that we know we need to do. Our wonderful Ken Daly's here tonight, and he talks about the same big four that I do: exercise, transcendence, diet, sleep. You all know about them. And if we could go into great detail, and again, tonight we're just going to start touching on things. We're going to be doing more lectures, more talks. So we could spend an hour just on exercise, an hour just on diet, an hour just on sleep, an hour on every point of how we connect to people. But just kind of get the notion that exercise is one tiny example. It's about getting 30 minutes of intensity. And if we're really in pain, it really means 30 minutes a day to shift that neurochemistry. And it's also about connecting to ourselves and about getting that we're choosing to take control over our bodies so we can start taking control over our minds. It's about that choice, that distinction that we're making to take control of our lives. About we're getting that we're isolating ourselves and we're going to reach out as hard as it is to connect to somebody else and to connect to ourselves. And then there's this middle ground. And maybe we're drinking a little too much or smoking a little something that's not really working for ourselves. And we think that we are, and we're kind of deluding ourselves. And we're not really missing school or work, but then again, we're not really functional as much powerfully as we need to be. What's working in our lives? And maybe you have attention deficit disorder and you need the magic pill. Or maybe you need to reach out to somebody who knows a little bit more. Or maybe you just notice your focusing isn't quite there. With a learning disability, there's a distinction between your achievement, which is maybe down here, starts here, but really down here, and your abilities, which are kind of up here. So we've got this kind of gap. Same thing that we have with maybe attention disorder, but it's also same as if you have like a mild dysthymia, mild depression, or anxiety, or some other condition, where you have a gap between what your ability really is and what you're achieving. So something's not really working, and getting that you need to move to that next point. Allowing that to happen, allowing a little bit of mental health things to fall in play so that you could start taking control again. It's allowing yourself to have that courage when I'm here to get up again, to say I'm going to make a difference. And now's the time to start making that difference. Now is the time to start creating something more. So I'm going to ask you guys one moment. And what I'd like you to do is, in a room full of meditators, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for just a second. So if you wouldn't mind, just close your eyes for just a second. This is going to be a very short little exercise. I'm going to ask you a question. Think about whatever isn't optimal, whatever's not quite working, whatever that might be in your life. And you wake up tomorrow morning, it's called the miracle question, because that's what happens. A miracle. It's gone. Whatever wasn't there is now departed. And then You now have that power. You now have that strength. You now have that courage to make that difference. And just look at what your life is without that thing. Things to actually be working in your life as you need it to be fully. That thing is gone. Now is the question, what's different? From the start in your morning to the end of your day, what have you done differently? What have you created to make your life work this day, now? To encompass this power and take it home with you. And when you open your eyes again, just take a moment and breathe that in, that that's the new you that you're going to start on. Because we don't need to focus on what was. As some people get trapped in here, focusing on the negative, and here's all these terrible things that have happened, and woe is us. We don't need to get lost in what's possible, but what we can actually create. Because now's the time to start making it happen. So take a moment now and get that in your head, who you're going to be. That new vision of yourself. And tonight, I'm going to ask one thing, that you say this one thing to one person. One thing to one person. This new you. And in fact, while you're doing that, you might even give them a gift by saying, this is the vision of who I see them to be, as I see the new vision of who I am to be. Because as you give that random act of kindness to somebody else, you create it within yourself. Allow that to be there now. Thank you so much. And we're back. I hope you enjoyed that. KRUU FM, Mental Health Matters with Dr. Scott Terry. And that was a little speech I gave a couple weeks ago on campus at MUM in front of about 300 people. It actually sounded pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think, Meredith?
I enjoyed listening to it. Yeah, it was very interesting. And I'd never heard that miracle question before. I'd never heard that idea before. And so I sat there with my eyes closed while we were listening to it, doing it for myself. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. And I pictured, if things were working better in my life, what's different for me? What am I doing differently to make things rock and roll? It was exercise, man.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I know for myself that that's the thing I struggle with the most in terms of having a regular practice, doing something for myself that really kind of lifts me and makes me feel well.
But it's also that point of like, every day I'm doing something for me.
Yeah.
Every day I'm connecting to my body.
Yes.
This vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? If I put maple syrup in my car, it's not going to run very good. It might smell good and taste good, but my car's not going to run very fast. You got to do what works for your body.
For you. And it's going to be different for every person. But I know for me, it's getting in my body.
So that's great. And I think that's a perfect point. Everything is different for every person.
Yeah.
And my point in there with the miracle question, which is not mine, by the way, it's DeSazier's from Solution Focus. I'm a family therapist. So I come from that tradition of looking at everything I do as systemic. The thought there is, I am waking up tomorrow as that different person. And what is really different in my life? And really seeing who I am as that different person and start living that. Because my point was, we get knocked down and we get up again. My favorite song is this old one, Chumbawamba. You know,
I get knocked down, but I
get up again.
You're never going to get me down. Yeah.
You're great. Oh, you sing it. I have the terrible voice here.
I won't sing the part about the whiskey and the vodka.
Yeah. But that's it. And it's like not making yourself into that victim. We make ourselves into those victims. We don't need the pity. We don't need the drama. We don't need the shame. All those shame, guilt, judgment, tossed out the window and go, things aren't working. Mm-hmm. Make it very simple. What do I need to make to start making my life work? Mm-hmm. And think of it as a package. So I do the exercise, and I'm not going to do a marathon next week. Piece by piece. It's not all or nothing. piece by piece. So I work up to it. Every day I walk a block, and then I walk 2 blocks, and then I walk a mile, and I'm getting myself together. And then I add in a little meditation, and I change my diet a little bit. I start becoming more akin to who I need to be for me. And as I change who I am for me, then my partner and my world will correspondingly change to me. We are always changing to other people. That's the victim mode. And instead, we start changing for who we need to be, the lives that we need to create for ourselves, and then other people change in response to us because we become the center.
That sounds great.
And so, that's where true happiness is. That's that point where what I say and what I do, as Gandhi said, are in harmony. So we're ending in a minute. Anything else you'd like to say, Meredith?
Gosh, I have a little dream I'd like to share.
Okay.
I have a little dream that Fairfield will see its own theater production of stories about mental health and mental illness, and I'd love to have that come to Fairfield. So that's my personal project.
If anybody has any suggestions or ideas or some funding ideas to make this happen, feel free to email me at Mental Health Matters. Meredith,
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, and it's a great idea. And not only is it going to happen, but we're going to have follow-up from that. And we're going to make something happen from people getting inspired by things happening. And that's where the real power is. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you, Meredith.
You're so welcome.
And so are you. And thank you, everybody. Email us at mentalhealthmatters@kruufm.com. Thanks, everyone. Bye.